What's up, guys? You are listening to HVAC Masters of the Hustle, and this is your host, J Dub Moneymaker, and welcome to episode 90. First off, man, I can't believe it's already episode 90. These weeks just come and come, and this podcast is helping thousands and thousands and thousands of people get to the next level. For all my new listeners out there, make sure you guys smash the subscribe button and make sure you tell anyone and everyone you know in the HVAC industry. And for all my listeners that hit me up every week and truly tells me how this podcast is bringing you and your company to the next level, that's what it's all about, you guys. And I say this on every podcast. I believe that everyone has a Spartan in them. It's my job, my duty, and my obligation to bring that out in you. And I have a great episode today for you. And let's welcome, he's no stranger to the hot seat. Let's welcome Uncle Joe Cursera to the hot seat. How you doing, Uncle Joe?
I'm doing great, J-Dub. How's it going, brother? Man, it feels great to be right back. It's nice and warm on this hot seat. It definitely makes me feel good to be welcome back. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. So for my listeners that are listening and tuning into the podcast, we have a great episode for you today. Me and Joe were talking earlier this week, and with us being in shoulder season and everything like that, we really wanted to talk about and have this podcast focusing on battling the objections. What objections come out, how to handle them, how to have a mindset of when an objection comes out. Right, Uncle Joe?
That's it, brother. It's it's a matter of being determined to reach your objective, right? It's like a highway. It's like, every opportunity we have is like a highway, and the destination, you got to be clear on it, is to get the job done, right?
Absolutely. And going inside the house, when you go to your appointment, having the mindset that you're already going to happily involve your client, right? Going in there with confidence, knowing what you're going to do at the end.
Well, that does bring up a good point, Jason. I think, it's really, you should probably reduce your expectations. Sometimes people get too amped up and they put too much, they're too attached to the outcome, right? I would say this: when you force yourself to say, I have to sell this job, most likely you're probably not going to sell it. If that's what you're focused on, is I have to do something to these people to sell them, you're in the wrong mindset, I believe. I believe it's like, hey, listen, you do ride-alongs and I do ride-alongs too, right? And what I do is, I'm not sure if it's happened to you ever, but for me, when I go out there and make this too much about myself, trying to look good, I usually flop, right? It's because I'm trying to make myself look good. But when I say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Now the next call, I'm going to just make a friend with the client and create a friendship first. And then it's easier to handle objections because they're not objections. You're helping. You're a tour guide that helps people to the destination, as opposed to me trying to do something or manipulate somebody. Does that make sense, sir?
Absolutely, Joe. And how are some avenues do you go about creating that relationship with the homeowner?
Well, that's a good one there. The first thing I do is I resist the urge to do what the industry has brainwashed everybody to do, which is to focus on the equipment, right? So everybody is focused on what kind of furnace you sell, what kind of air conditioning unit you got, and the box, right? Well, the customer already knows about that. He looked it up online. You know about it. But what we don't know about are the people who are using the box. So I try to make sure that I try to relate both the box or the equipment to the people. I was like, so Jason, let me ask you a question before we get started, before we get down to business. Tell me, just to make sure I get the right application of the equipment, how many people use the air conditioning and heating system in the house? How many people are living here, to make sure I can get the right application? So I'm connecting the technical solution with the people who use it, and that's the key thing, to transition one to the other. Because if you only talk about people, then it comes off like you're Dr. Phil, like this guy's not even an HVAC guy, right? Mm-hmm. If you talk too much about the equipment, it confuses people, because what does he mean by HSFP? What the hell's that? And you start to get too I call out of balance. So my advice would be, for every here's just a really quick tip. This is a golden nugget right here, J-Dub. I'm gonna drop fire. Here it goes.
Boom.
It's like drop the mic. It's gonna be like this. Here what I tell you. Never ask any more than 2 questions about the equipment before you ask 2 more questions about the people who use the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so tell me, how old is the house? How old is the system, right? Okay, and how many people are we using in the who use the air conditioning system? Now,
So, Joe, real quick,
that kind of
when
thing,
you ask that question, do you want it to be like whom in the house touches the thermostat and knows who's operating the
yeah,
thermostat?
that would be a good that'd be a good example, right? You're like, so this is the thermostat. Now, who's the person who normally controls the temperatures in the house? Is that is that would be a good, then you're moving toward the people. And then if they go, well, that's my wife, and you say, well, what does your wife say about this thermostat? Well, she says this thing is a pain in the rear end. Really, why does she think it's hard to do? Well, she can't read it. It's too small. Oh my goodness. Well, she's lucky to have a husband like you who wants to help her out with that. That's so nice. So I try to create that friendship, always being complimentary. You guys watch me online, right? Look for something that I say bad about somebody, and you'll never find it. Because why? I'm not even here. Listen, I mean, there's some people who are like, aren't you mad that Jason Walker is a competitor and he's selling sales stuff? I'm like, dude, Jason Walker's done more for me in the last year than I could ever. I can't think of enough for it. Why would he be mad that Jason Walker's doing good, right? I'm just happy. I'm just happy he's my friend. That's all I care about, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And so I'm just like this. I say same thing. I'm like, you know what? Let's just focus on the thing we need to focus on. Let's focus on the people who are using the thermostat. Not just furnaces, not just which room is, like some people like to see the traditional one. Which room is the most comfortable? Or which room is the most warm or cool, right? Who uses that room? What do they think about it? Would be a second follow-up to that, right? So I think sometimes the manufacturer's got to start at the right direction, but I don't think they quite finished the series of questions that leads toward the people. So I say out of balance, Jason, the balance between people and the balance between the things we're trying to sell people. That's got to be had, the balance. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I like to do going into a call as a sales professional, a comfort advisor, online training, is I like to know what type of objections are going to be coming towards me, right? So one thing I do is, you have to know what doors to close before you present your price. You got to ask certain questions in order to find out what maybe the problem issues are, what concerns the homeowner might have, and really focus on the homeowner, like you said, Joe. But, what I like to think about is, for a homeowner coming up with an objection, it costs too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to close that door of it costs too much? Building value, right? Also, I can't afford it. How are we going to overcome I can't afford it, right? What seeds do we have to plan throughout our presentation to close that door?
That's a good.
Go ahead. Yeah,
that's a really good point. We can choose to handle objections at the end of the call, and that puts a lot of pressure on the end of the call, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
As opposed to, I call it, Jason, is called yellow lights. We see a yellow light, and it's like something that makes us feel like that's in conflict with what I do. Like, I'm looking for somebody who's got a cheap price, the guy might tell us, and we'd say, okay, so a cheap price is what you're looking for. That's the lowest price is going to get the job. Yeah, the guy who's got the lowest price is going to get the job. Then I would say sometimes, well, first of all, let me just say how much I thank you for your honesty, and it's so nice that you would just be honest with me. And most customers are not honest, so I appreciate your honesty, and it's so nice that you get that. And I feel so grateful for the opportunity here. Which I'm going to share something that might be hard for you to hear. I might tell a customer there, what is it, Joe? Well, if you're looking for the cheapest price, we're probably not going to qualify on the upfront cheapest price. But if you're looking for the best investment in the long run, then our price will be way less money than the competition because they're going to cost more when it's not done right. It's not going to. So the cheapest price isn't going to do the job. It's not going to do a complete job. So you'd be coming back and getting nickeled and dime over and over. But if you want to do it that way, here at my company, we wouldn't qualify for that. So What do you think of that? And then most people are like, yeah, you're right. Uh, you get what you pay for, right, Joe? I'm like, exactly. That's what I was hoping you'd say. So what should we do? Yeah, let's go ahead and continue there. You know what I'm saying? Or so in a way, we got through that objection. When I first heard it, I didn't have to wait for like an hour of my time and waste an hour of everybody's time and then bring it up. So my feeling is this: when you hear resistance or you feel resistance, number one, let's put a pillow under people's rear end first, so we don't make them feel bad about this. You know, you got to be like, well, let me just start by saying thank you for the opportunity and thanks for being so honest. And so I'm gonna give out roses first, right? Let me say thanks for this and thanks for doing that. So nice. But let me tell you something that might be a little bit difficult to hear, and then now we're transitioning, right? If you're looking for the cheapest price on the front end, we may not be a good fit because we're going to be a higher investment. But I will tell you this: in the long run, it'll be way less money if you hire us because we won't have to do the job 2 or 3 times. We're just going to get it down to 1 time. So, what do you think? Are you okay with something like that? If the investment was a little higher, how about this? And then somebody says, "Well, how much is it going to cost, Joe?" Early in the call, I would say, "Well, what I try to do." Here's what I try to do, Jason. I try to say, let's find a way that we can find a system that's here. I look at the furnace, the AC, the ductwork, the control system, the electrical. I look at your family, you, your wife, your daughter, your son, and the dog even. And I try to find the perfect system for your family. That's what I try to do. Now, let's say I found the perfect system for you guys and you decided it was perfect. And then we found a way to do it instead of paying all the money out of your pocket. Let's imagine that our company had a bridge loan that would allow you to get the job done and you could use our money interest-free for 5 years. What would happen then? Oh, that would be great. Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to worry about taking the money out of your account. You could just use our money for free. What do you think of that? See, that's a way of handling an objection. Objection was like, I want to get a cheap job. Then what if I said I had a better way that would be shifting the focus? So really when I say objections, whether they're happening early in the call or later in the call, write this down, everybody. This is a good one. It's called shifting the focus.
Yep.
Shifting the focus away from what the conflict is and reaching beyond that, focusing on instead the solution we have as opposed to the problem we have. Does that make sense, sir?
Yep. And one thing, Joe, that I really like that you do, and we have to do it as sales professional, is we can't just ask questions, or I shouldn't say, we can't just give them the answers to the questions, right? We have to bring that back to them so they could come up with their own answers, right? We can't tell them, hey, you need to replace your system. They need to say, well, how much is a new one?
Exactly. It's like people have to discover. I don't think I've ever sold anything really, but I have plenty of people sold themselves. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like I'm not good at selling people, and I don't think you are either. Really, I think we're both good at letting people sell themselves on the experience they're getting from us and the honesty that we sometimes bring, because that's what gives you trust. Trust is something you're going to get by being honest, even when you risk your popularity. Does that make sense? You're not guaranteed to be popular on a call, and if being popular is the thing you're trying to do, then most likely you're not going to be good at sales, because sales is not a popularity contest, but it is a contest to me of letting people find the right solution, even if the solution is not you. It doesn't mean it has to be you. If you go into the call saying, in my heart, I'm here to help you find this is a good golden statement to say, I would say, Joe, my role here is to help you find the right solution. And sometimes that solution is not even me. So if it's not me, I'll be happy to let you know who I think would be good for your family if I had that solution. So I always let people know that I'm not here to necessarily get the job. I'm here to make sure you find the right solution. I think when you do that, then you become the right solution, because people have sold themselves on you and your attitude that you're not here to force people into things. Make sense there, Jace?
Absolutely. And for my listeners listening to this, if you guys truly understand that a homeowner only does this once or twice in their life, now just take a step back real quick. Understand this. It's not like buying a car where you're doing this every 3 to 5 years, right? Homeowners are not educated on this stuff. So when we build value with them and we break down the homeowner's walls, and we show them that we care and that we want to give them solutions. And just like Joe said, that we're giving solutions for their family, right? We're tying their family back into the investment. We have to understand how we have to close these doors. And when a homeowner tells us, I need to think about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of comfort advisors that maybe are scared to sit in that batter's box, is what I call it, and battle the objections, they just start packing up, right?
Yep.
When a homeowner says they need to think about it, that means a confused mind never buys. That's what I always say. Would you agree, Uncle Joe?
Totally. And, and really the sales professional, their job is to assist people to think about things. That's your job. You don't have to, guys, nobody has to be invited to do that. That's something that you should just say, I'm going to take leadership and help people as a concierge or a tour guide to help people find their way here, right? That's, if you look at objections, like people are a little bit lost right now about the price, or lost about, I'm not sure who I should go with, or I'm not sure about all these options, or I'm not sure about the company, or I'm not sure if I got the money. Like, these are things they're not sure about. Your job is to help them realize that you may not be sure about that, but here's what we are sure about. And that's called leadership, right? That's what sales and leadership are kind of intertwined, I believe, because leadership means that I know the direction to go to make us go to a safe place where you're going to be comfortable for you and your family. And we're going to find a way to make that affordable. And even though it may be a little bit more money out of your pocket overall, it's going to be something that lasts for a long time, and it's not going to be done. So in a way, if you know that's the destination you've got, then you stand on firm ground. I always say you're on a granite rock you're standing on, and that's why I never lose objections. I don't feel like I ever lose them. I always feel like if people don't purchase from me, that means they just weren't a good fit. It doesn't mean I lost them. I never had them to begin with, right? It wasn't something I had, So I don't go into looking at sales like I got one or lost one. I don't worry about my conversion rate or my average ticket. I don't worry about that. I just worry about, can I, number one, learn about the equipment, learn about the people who use the equipment, to hear some of the the yellow lights that come up during that conversation, and am I able to address it and get beyond the barrier that they're giving me? Like, some people may say, before you even get started, if you can't beat the price of $5,000, you can get out of here. Like, I had one guy tell me that when I was in a different, I was doing a ride along a couple of weeks ago. Customers like, you just, I already got a price of $5,000. I'm looking for a lower price. If you can't beat that price, then you could just get out of here, he told me. And I said, well, thanks for trying to inspire confidence in me. I said, if you're trying to make me feel like I got an opportunity, you're not doing that great of a job. I told the guy, I said, you're not doing a really great job of motivating me, just so you know. And he's like, I shouldn't have said that. You're right. I said, no, it's okay. You can say it. I said, so $5,000 is the limit. I said, what if I said you could keep the $5,000 and not spend it? What would you feel about that? That blew his mind. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
what do you mean?
I said, well, first of all, thank you for being so blunt and honest. I want to just say thank you for that, because it's so nice that it's refreshing. I mean, you're going to save me a lot of time today, one way or the other. We're going to save a lot of time together. Why is that? Because you're getting right to the point, and I'm going to get right to the point. How's that sound? He goes, yeah, I like that. I'm like, good. I like that too. And I'm like, here's the thing about it. Why don't we just take the $5,000 you've got? You're going to spend $5,000? Yeah. Keep that money. You keep that money. Instead, why don't we use a thing where I can do a bridge loan where you could take like less than 10% of that money, and we could probably find a solution that would be less money than a Starbucks a day to get the system put in. If I could do something like that instead, and you could use our money interest free and you could keep your money, would that make a difference on the budget? Yeah. Oh God, yeah, I'd do anything. I'd probably get everything then, because I want to get the furnace and AC and everything then if we do that. I said, okay, so what should we do? Yeah, so I handled the objection. I didn't wait till the end to handle it, right? And I kind of knew the destination I was going toward, which is going to be financing, but I didn't use the word financing. Obviously, you see, I stayed away from that word. Bridge loan is the word that's working right now. I know that that's a word that is just working. Use our money instead of your money. Why don't you keep your money? See, who could resist that? What do you mean by that? You see what I'm saying, Jason? So these little things that come up. Now, here's the thing about it. What's the difference between a real sales professional A sales professional takes inventory of these things like you do. In order to be successful like you do, you take inventory of these little things that work and you keep using them like it's like a jukebox, the Jason Walker jukebox. Oh, he's starting to play. I got to think about it. That's B29 on the Jason Walker jukebox,
Yep. I
right?
know
And
exactly where I'm going with it.
you already got the destination picked out before you go there. I think that's what, like when I hear Brent Buckley and some of you have some all stars on this thing. Rick Picard, my buddy Rick.
Yeah.
That's why I love this podcast. This is if anybody wants to go where high performers at, you can take the soundbite right here. If anybody if anybody wants to go where high performers go, it's right here on HVAC Masters of the Hustle. That's Uncle Joe for you right there, giving the endorsement right there. Because that's one thing I love is that all these people, you can use that soundbite if you want to for promos. But anyway, I like that. I like the fact that all the professionals, I realized they're so relaxed because they already know the destination. They're not, they're taking inventory of the destination they're going to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And for my listeners, one thing that I like to focus on while I'm in my presentation and I'm teaching my 7 sales step process is asking certain questions and nuggets throughout your presentation, right? So talking about the reputation of your company, putting your company on the pedestal, looking at the homeowner and saying, does this sound like the right kind of company that you'd like to do business with? Using that as ammunition. So when you're at your close and they say, well, I'm going to go get other estimates, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always say there's 3 things that a homeowner is always going to ask themselves before they make a decision. So regardless, you make a decision today, tomorrow, 6 months, 6 years down the road, you're going to ask yourself these 3 questions. Do we sound like the right company? Right? And then in my presentation, I'm going to ask that question to plant that seed. Do you trust me doing the project? Right? I'm going to ask that question while I'm doing my heat load and walking the homeowner around with me. And then with my questionnaire, I'm tying them in on a price and a budget. So I ask them those 3 questions. I engineer and custom tailor multiple options that are going to be affordable to them so I could close those doors and I could bring them back and use the ammunition that they tell me to help me close those doors and happily involve that client. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, it's in some way, I think everybody who does what they do, they capture all those, they lock all those doors, if you will. They make sure those doors are locked. It's like, I think I heard Weldon Long say it one time, and I was really good in a metaphor. He said, at the end of the hallway is a door that says you got the job. But there's a lot of doors that are in that hallway that open up and the monster comes out and kills you before you get there, right? And I think I heard him say that, and it was like a really good metaphor. I give him credit for it, and I tell him that's a good metaphor. So that's really what it's about. And I think you're good. I think everybody locks those doors. There's many different. One thing I've learned though is there's many different ways of doing it. Like for instance, when I do a thing where I talk about the reputation of the company, I'll first find out what the reference point is. Like, so what have you heard? How did you hear about our company? What was it like when you called our call center? When you booked the call, what was that like? Did you enjoy the conversation with Jenny, the person that you talked to? How did the other companies do? The other companies they got a voicemail. Okay, so do you see that how we won't be able to compete with those? I would say, well, I got to let you know something then. What's that? Well, if we answer the phone, we have a live person doing that, and they just do voicemail. I'm not going to be able to compete financially with those people because they got nobody answering the phone. Are you okay with somebody who doesn't answer the phone when you have an emergency, like a no heat call? Would you be okay with that? No, so I do 2 things. 1, enhance my reputation, and 2,
create doubt.
just make sure that the customer is aware of what the service they're getting, because just the phone call to call a comfort advisor to your house, that phone call is not I think most of us guys like you who you worked at that professional company in Sacramento, Jason, and many other people a lot of people, I think the most professional companies listen to this podcast. I think you're probably way overrating your piss poor competition, how they even answer the phone. Because most times if you call 10 people, seven of them would be either a voicemail or, hey, let me give this to the sales guy and he'll call you back tomorrow. What kind of response is that when you need a heating system put in, right? So just that part alone is a differentiator. And I think you're right. That does kind of come up to that thing of how do you get trust? myself, I don't necessarily ask the question about, will you trust me with the project? That, to me, trust is something like the sale. It emerges. And I think at some point, I think we all know that, like, here's how I do that. I say, well, if I were to go through this and find the right solution, right, and you guys found a way to make it affordable and it was perfect for your family, what would take place at that point? And they're going to be like, yeah, we just get the job done then. Okay, good. So now I know they trust me at that point, because they said they're willing to say, yeah, I would commit that point. So to me, the commitment you're doing there, the commitment is what we're all looking for, right? That's what everybody's trying to do there. And the good news is that the reason it's so much easier in sales now than it's ever been. Most people are lacking in commitment when they sell. They're not very committed. So when you're committed as a salesperson and the customer's committed, there's nothing that can stop you. But when, as a salesperson, you're not completely committed to everything that you're trying to do. You don't believe in the company's prices. You don't believe in the reputation of the company. You don't believe you're going to be working here in 2 months, and you're talking about all the service you're going to provide. Those are the kinds of things that people can see through it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. One thing you were just talking about is, dispatch answering the phone and setting up calls for success and everything like that. One thing I like to do, when I was a comfort advisor in the field and, talking to my dispatchers, my comfort advisors, and my technicians, and even my business owners, maybe, is calling your competitors and just seeing how they answer the phone, what type of questions they ask, right? How do they set up their calls? Maybe you guys might be losing calls, to this certain company or this certain competitor. But I always say it starts with the phones, right? How you answer the phones, how you set up that call and pass that baton off to your service technician or to your comfort advisor. So for you guys listening to this right now, are you doing that? Do you know what your competitors are doing? How, if not, how are you guys going to get better than them?
Right. If you don't know what they're doing, that's true. And you know what? Here's what I even go further than that. What I do, Jason, is do exactly what you're saying. And I have recordings on my phone right now, on my cell phone. I have recordings of my competition. I have like what's that? Home Depot. I have Costco. I have all these places on my cell phone ready to go. So when somebody says, I got Costco, they're going to be giving me us. I said, yeah, let's call Costco and see what the heating department sounds like when I call there. So I call Costco and it's just a voicemail from hell. And I'm like, it has the meat department. It has the optometry department. It has every department you can name, but there's no heating department. I said, what's going to happen when you got a no heat call with that? And, and they're like, yeah, I never thought about that. So what I do is I take my competitors and I find the ones that are going to compete with me, make that call and see what it's like when I try and book a call, and I record it. And I just say, here's what you're going to get when you call that company when you have a no heat call. Imagine this. Oh my God. I mean, I said, if we're trying to pay us money, isn't now the time we should be giving you the best service? I tell people, yeah, it is the best time.
Absolutely.
So why aren't people able to at least answer the phone? If this is the best time, if this is the best service you're going to get, you can see that. I always tell people, I'm not going to be able to compete financially with somebody who doesn't even have somebody answer the phone. So if you're looking for that kind of service, it's called butt service. What's butt service? That's where you could have had a live person answer the phone, but you took a few thousand money off the job. That's what happened, So
absolutely. Joe, talking about the holiday seasons and, we're rolling into winter. We are in winter now. It's starting to get cold and everything. So people have gone through the shoulder season, with holidays and people looking at holidays. I'd never use holidays as an objection when people say I'm trying to save money, because people are out buying stuff right now, right? And I want everyone to understand that when people are buying, they're buying, right? So don't let the holidays discourage you. Don't think with your own checkbook, your own wallet, your own bank account, because people are buying right now. What you have to do is you have to create the urgency. Why right now is the most important time, right?
Well, I tell you what, Jason, you're married, you have and you have kids and stuff like that, right?
Yes, sir.
So by the time, if your wife invited somebody to your house to improve something in your home, this is already sold. Why would your wife call somebody for an estimate on a new roof or whatever? Or why would you suggest, hey, honey, I think we should get an electrical estimate for a new panel? why would you do that unless you were going to buy one, right? So
Mhm.
when somebody, a little secret that you should all know is that when somebody calls and said they're just interested in getting a price, there's no such thing as somebody interested in buying a
No,
price.
there's a reason why you're going out there.
There's an but there is an interest in buying a furnace. I can tell you that. But they're just giving the price part of it to kind of push you back a little bit there, right? So the destination is a little secret we all should know. Nobody ever calls somebody on a day off when they got nothing to do, and exposes themselves and their family to a salesperson. That never happens, and not for us or not for them. So when they do invite you into the inner sanctum of their home, one thing you should know is you're already starting out not just as a 10, but as a 12. You're like better than somebody because you answered the phone, you booked the call, you showed up on time. This is already a good experience. I was better, it's way better than I thought I was going to get to start with. The guy is listening to me. He's not he's making my family feel good. He's petting my dog. He's all these things that we do to gain trust and things like that. They're like, I like this. This is the kind of guy I could do business with. This kind of guy, that's what goes through the mind of the customer. It's like, I think we all been there, right? Like now, I just bought myself a Tesla Model X over the weekend. I bought one last weekend.
Look at you.
It was the fastest $100,000 I ever spent. It was I go in there, push a few buttons on an iPad, and I got a car. So it's like, what? I'm approved. Yeah, 15 seconds.
How you liking the car?
I haven't got it yet. It's going to be delivered next week. But
Okay.
the bottom line is I went in there in 15 minutes. But here's the thing. When they knew when I walked in there, I said, how many people walk in and do this and go through this little exercise? I asked the guy, how many people do that? I asked the people at the Apple store, too. I said, I went to the Apple store to get my new iPhone 12 Plus, right? I got that one, too. And so I went there and I asked both of them. I said, hey, when somebody comes in and goes on the iPad and starts filling things out, what percentage of people don't buy the car when that happens? And the Tesla guy goes, oh my God, I can't remember last time somebody did that. But if they come into this place and they put their name into this iPad, it's pretty much like 90% closed. And I said, how about, I went to the Apple store and I got my phone. I asked them the same thing. How many times do people come in here and come to the first person? Hey, can I get your name? Yeah. What are you looking for? I'm looking for an iPad or I'm looking for an iPhone. Okay. Well, let me get your name and information. You'll be right with you. He'll stand over at this table. Right. I said, how many people, I asked the ladies, how many people wind up not making a purchase? Do you guys have a conversion rate? They're like, are you crazy? Everybody, by the time they give us, everybody makes a purchase here. Nobody leaves empty handed. We can't imagine. They think it's like 2%, they said at the Apple store. So, that's one thing that they've taken. The attitude of the Apple employee or the Tesla employee is that you're coming in, you're leaving with a car and you're leaving with an iPad. You're not like, we're not here. The destination is to have you be happy and get the product that we sell.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing about it. So I think that's what you have to say. I'm not just here for an estimate. I'm here to get the job done. And that's in my heart because I think I'm the best one to do it. That's really why I feel like that. And you got to believe in yourself. I think that's confidence is something that is gotten from doing it the right way over and over again. And then eventually kind of emerges the right way. Make sense?
Yeah. And kind of to roll off of what Joe said, knowing that you are the best fit for your client, right? And part of doing this is calling your competitors, right? Having your competitors go out to maybe your house or your rental or your parents' house and seeing how they do their presentation, right? That's what's going to set you apart from your competition as well. Plus, if they say, hey, I want 3 estimates, right? Now you have a book of estimates that you could show a homeowner. So if you're in a house for 2-3 hours, maybe, and they want 2 estimates, the last thing the homeowner wants to do, I'm going to tell you, is go through another 2 or 3 appointments for another 2 or 3 hours to get the same results, right? Exactly. So if you could have value and you could show them your competitor, hey, Bob and Betty, how many estimates were you planning on getting? 2? Perfect. What were the company's names? Whatever the company's, right? Then you grab your physical book of all these different, you don't ask for permission. You just grab it and you physically just start going through estimates until a homeowner tells you to stop. Once they tell you to stop, you simply look at them and say, so what'd you notice out of what I just showed you? And they're usually going to say all the prices are the same or the guarantees and the warranties are pretty much identical. And then you simply just go off of that. So obviously, and then you ask us 3 questions, right? Do you trust me? Do you trust my product? Do you trust my company? After that, slide the paper over and ask for the order, right? It's crazy to me, Joe, that 60% of sales comfort advisors or sales individuals in this industry or in any industry don't ask for the order. Why do you think that is?
I think they realize that they haven't made a good enough case, that they don't feel like they provide enough value. I think there's there's something inside of us that feels like either I have or I haven't provided enough value. It's hard to ask for the order when you feel like you've fallen short in a way, right? So that's one thing I never do, though. I feel like I offer more value than people ask me for, right? Therefore, I feel much better knowing the family intimately, but the way they use air conditioning, heating, I feel I've done my homework there. I feel I've got the best presentation. That's the most personal presentation I could make. And I don't think there's anybody who's going to make it better than I will. I mean, if you and I were working in the same market, let's say doing heating and air conditioning, we would probably never even notice the other one because we would just keep selling jobs. And the only time we get irritated with our competition when we lose jobs to them, right? But if you sold jobs and I sold jobs, and you're a $5 million salesperson, I'm a $5 million salesperson, we don't even know the other one exists, right? Yep. So it's not about losing jobs to your competition. It's about you fumbling the ball and they pick it up. Like,
absolutely,
Jason would only know about me if I kept losing jobs and he picked up those balls. They pick up the jobs for me, and I would only know the same thing about him. I would only know that the guy from Jason, here's his proposal again. I keep getting opportunities that he misses, and that's how I know it, right? But I look at it this way: it's like if you don't feel like you're the best solution, that's why I say that to people. It makes me feel that way. Like, Joe, I'm going to help you find the right solution, even if it's not me. If I feel somebody could do this better, I'm going to let you know that. I haven't seen anybody I thought would be better, so I just be honest with that little note there, side note, that I don't think there is anybody better when I'm out there doing it. And so I just you got to believe in yourself. And I think it all comes down to you may not be able to believe in the solution so much, but you should be able to believe in the effort that you're going to make is going to be 100%. That there's nothing that's going to be left behind. I'm going to give you my cell phone number. We're going to get this job done. I'm going to follow up to make sure you're happy. I'm going to come back and visit with you and make sure that everybody's satisfied with the comfort we have. I'm not going to be afraid of my customer after we sell them something. These are something we do. And, objections are something that are just, kind of like, I call it an exit ramp in a way, Jason. It's like, I don't want to spend too much money. Let's take an exit ramp and talk about that. And then we solve that problem and get back on the main highway of getting the job done there, right? Sort of like that kind of a thing. Either use the door analogy or the exit ramp analogy. But in a way, you got to actually let's take a side path off here on the exit ramp. And when we stop at an exit on a highway, when we feed ourselves or get gas, we're literally stronger, and we get back on the highway. We got a full tank, and we've had some coffee or whatever.
Joe, I love this analogy. I just want to tell you, this is gold right here.
It's good. I like that one too, right? Because you're getting an exit, you're handling stuff, you're getting stronger. You've nourished yourself by getting this problem solved, and now you're stronger. You're getting back on the highway. You've got your food, you got your drink, you got your gas, and now you got ready to go on the highway. We always feel good getting back on that main exit, don't we? We get back on there again, and that's the same thing you got to look at. If your attitude is that, it's just a diversion right now, and I'm going to get off for a little bit and talk about that, and then we'll get back on again. The idea is the objective is my closing line is, there's the prices, so what should we do? And but I just never seen a price that high. You guys, nobody's giving me all these prices. I'm like, I know, definitely we're more premium. So what should we do? Nobody, you're the only one. I had one guy, and I was in Oceanside, a place in Oceanside, California, a couple of weeks ago, and the guy's like, you do know that your top solution for $45,000 is more than, it's like the highest guy is not, you're 5 times higher than the best guy that came out here, the highest guy that came out here. How come they aren't doing this? And I said, I just don't know. I said, here's what I can tell you. Either they didn't know about this solution where everybody could have their own personal air conditioning unit in their own room, or they didn't care about it because it's too much work, or they were just afraid because it was more money. Which one do you think it was?
Yep.
Yeah, it's probably just afraid. I said, well, is that what you want to do, is buy an air conditioning unit from somebody who's afraid? No, I don't. All right. So what should we do? Right. Right back to that again. So
Yep, bring it back to them.
I would say all roads lead back to what should we do? Right. And so whenever, and you got to remember, sometimes they're not even objections. Like let's define an objection too, Jason. This is a good one. I think this is a good moment for
Yeah,
everybody. I think
absolutely.
you got to remember, objection is only when somebody says no or not now. Right. So if they didn't say no, or they didn't say not now, then it's not an objection, right?
Mhm.
Like if they say, go ahead, Jason, what kind of things do you think people would throw at you that doesn't have the word no, it doesn't have the word now? You give them the prices. Here we go. So here we go, Jason. Here's all the prices. What should we do? What are some of the things that people would say that they're not saying no, I'm not going to do it, or they just say something. It's just blare it out. What kind of things what do people say?
I gotta talk to my sister.
Well, that's good. Well, let me ask you a question. Your sister sounds like an important person. Let me ask you a question about that. Is your sister more of a premium person when it comes to the safety and health of your family? Is she more premium? Would she be more mid-range, or do you think she'd go on the cheap? What do you think she would do? And then
I'd have to say mid range.
mid-range. Well, here's the mid-range options we got here. So if you think she was here, and you had to take a guess, which one do you think she would like in those two mid-range options we have? Would she do the one for the $350 a month, or the $310 a month? Which one do you think she would go with?
The one for 110. Quick question, Joe. So are you asking these questions this way because you know that that's truly their response and not really, their sister's response? Because that's something I was always taught.
Well, I could always do this. I'd say, well, let's figure out if they know. We're going to smoke it out to see if this is something they know or something they don't know. If they say they don't know, then I could say this. I could say, well, here's what we could do. I mean, I had another guy in Oceanside, a different one I had, and the guy's like, I just need you to email all this stuff to me, and I'll get back to you. I promise I'll call you back tomorrow on this. I said, well, that's a really good offer. Yeah, and we could email it. That's a good way to do. We could email things. You could take a look at it and spend your time on that. There's not a problem there. But we do have two choices here. There's two ways of doing this. One way is we could, number one, do you have an interest in this, or do you have no interest? No interest or interest? So I know there's two answers, right? So I define myself. You said I'm keeping it to two things. So I asked the guy, do you have no interest right now, or do you have an interest at this point? What do you think he said to that, Jason?
I have interest.
Good. I'm glad you have an interest. Now, there's two things we could do if you have an interest. One thing is we can just purchase right now and get the job scheduled for Friday, because today's Wednesday and we got to get this thing done. It's a big job. So we can get it scheduled for Friday or tomorrow if we get it not done now. But if you wait till tomorrow, then I'd have to really go to bat for you on Friday or even Saturday and make a special thing like that. And then who knows, you may have to wait till next week even. So what do you think of that? Do you think you want to do it right now? Here's what we could do. What if I said we did this? You could commit to the economy option for now, think about it overnight, and then upgrade when we come back tomorrow. What do you think of that? And he's like, that's perfect. Let's do the one for $59.82 for now, and then we'll do it tomorrow. I said, you're just a genius. I said, you're amazing. And the guy's like, okay, come back tomorrow. Let's do the one for $21,562. Oh, wow. That's what you thought about. Yeah, my wife and I, we want to do the better one. Oh, that's so nice. So in a way, it worked out. What did I do? I anchored the job and came back and got the upgrade, right? So, it doesn't have to always be like a classic, we're selling this thing now and we're over with it. Sometimes you would sell a place on the schedule now. And then come back and upgrade it type of thing, So there's a lot of, when you have the options like so one thing that we both believe in is giving people options, right, Jason?
Mm-hmm.
And without the options, I think you're lost. I think that's where you're screwed without the options. What do you think of that?
No, I absolutely agree with that. You have to present homeowners options, your clients options, because at the end of the day, that's also what's going to separate you from your competitors, which is going to make you not shoppable. Right? Do you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, I always tell people, some people hey, I'm going to get three options. You're the first guy, and I'm going to get three options. And I always kind of force the envelope. I go, so today we're just going to give prices. So there's no possible way you could make a purchase today. no matter what I did, there's nothing I could do today to make a purchase. I always ask them that. And they go, well, I wouldn't say that. Well, what would you say? Well, I mean, if you had, I just want to get prices from different people around the area. Well, I mean, if I said I already shopped the area and our company's been around for a long time and we already have all the prices, and I could show you the competition's prices and our prices at the same time, what would happen then?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'd like to get this job done. If you could do that, you'd save me a lot of time too. You would. Okay, so what should we do? Yeah, let's just get this thing wrapped up today then. And then and then it went like that, So, just like that. It's like, why are we letting a small little barrier like that? It's a yellow light. We have to do a little exit ramp, have a little conversation about that, and get back on the main highway. Make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes sense. Now, Joe, let me ask you.
You didn't want to go back to that holiday thing, right? You want to talk about that a little bit? To make sure
Let's talk about that. Yep.
Yeah. So one thing I always say is that in this case, if you got it in your brain that the holidays are going to be a problem, if you think it's a conflict, or it's a yellow light starting out for you, my advice is this. My advice is you put the objection first and let the customer handle that objection. So if you say, so Joe, what's going on? I'm looking for a new furnace. And you could say something like, Joe, do you think it's really a smart idea to get a new furnace before the holidays? What do you think what's the reason why you're going to do it right before the holidays? Is there a reason why getting a furnace before Christmas is such a good idea? And that makes the customer, forces them to solve that problem, right? I'm putting the problem out there, not you. I'm giving the objection. That's a mind blower, right?
Absolutely.
Joe, I mean, is it really a good idea to get the furnace before Christmas? Oh yeah, we have to get it done before Christmas. Really, why? My wife is going to kill me if I don't get this thing done. Her mom's coming in out of town too, and we have to get it done. Okay. See, now, how do you feeling about Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
All you had to do is ask, if you have it in your brain that Christmas is a bad time to buy, just convert it and twist it. That's all you got to do. Just say, hey, let me put that out there and see what people think of that. Somebody says, I already got 3 estimates. I had a guy last couple of weeks ago said, I already got an estimate from 3 other companies last year, but now we're ready to move forward. So I called your company. I'm like, well, let's stop right there a little bit. Let's pump the brakes there. I said, what did you get from the other companies that you didn't make a purchase last year? What changed?
Mm-hmm.
What's the reason why we're not doing that? I mean, what am I going to say if you already got 3 people that you already got? Well, those guys were just idiots. And I heard that. I'm like, oh, what? I didn't mean to have that come out. What have you heard about our company? I heard you guys are the best. My neighbor uses it. He's usually like for 14 years. He knows you guys. Okay. See, all that stuff comes out because I actively questioned what I was hearing and I didn't just bypass it. I think, Jason, you ride with guys and I ride with guys. How many times do you hear a customer say something to your salesperson that's with you, and you would have questioned it, but he just lets it go? How many times do you be like, man, why didn't you ask that?
All the time. And that's the one thing that when you ride along with these guys is you do have to let them fumble. You do have to allow them to fall, right? But it's our job to pick them up, to coach them. We walk outside. Hey, try this when you walk back in there.
Yeah.
The thing about it that I've noticed, and you could tell me if you've noticed this, is a lot of technicians and a lot of comfort advisors really create their own objection. Now, when I say that, they get dispatched a call, right? It comes in on their phone and they read that it's a, 15-year-old rental tenant's going to be there. Homeowner lives 4 hours away, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's opportunity, right? Because that's my mindset. But what I see a lot when I ride along with these guys is they create their own objection. They go into the call saying, there's no homeowner. There's no way I could give a presentation. There's no one to be in front of, and there's no value in it. There's different ways to create value on that type of appointment, right? So not creating your own objection. And how many times, maybe for my listeners that have done that or have been through a rental tenant situation, I'm sure most of you listening to this podcast has sold a lot of those situations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so not creating it.
Well, you know what it is? It's not realizing, what happens is they go with the flow. I always like, there's only 2 things that go with the flow. One of them is a dead fish. The other is a turd. There's only two other things that go with the flow. Yeah, and the problem is the technician or the salesperson is already going with the flow. They feel the momentum working against them, and they're not willing to work upstream a little bit against this thing. Here's what it comes down to on the tenant landlord thing. All you got to do is shift the focus off of how much a furnace costs and shift the focus on how much it costs to not have somebody pay their rent because they have no heat. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like, my question for the landlord is, how important is this tenant to your income that you make on the property? It's really important. What would happen if the tenant stopped paying rent because the heat? We're literally documenting the fact that we have no heat by me being here. It literally documents the fact that we're not doing anything about it. So my greatest fear, I always tell people, is that if I leave here today and I have to document this, that he's going to use this when he doesn't want to pay his rent on time. You see what I'm saying there? What do you think about that? And that's kind of what I put out there for landlords. And they're like, yeah, you're right. We got to get this thing done. And then I had one time, a famous one, where I had an attorney, right? Attorney had an office building. They had a cracked heat exchanger in there. And I told the landlord, I'm like, I haven't told the occupants that the cracked heat exchanger is cracked right now. Do you think I should go? I'm supposed to, by law. There's two choices. One choice is I should tell them by law that there's trace amounts of carbon monoxide in the commercial space up there. Or I guess we could just get a new furnace. I wouldn't have to tell them anything. What do you think? What do you think there? And they're like, yeah, let's just get that. They're like, can you put it in without them seeing it? I'm like, I think we can do it. I think we can. How about we come out tonight and we'll just do it? They're like, yeah, let's do it tonight and not even tell them about it. And so we wound up selling $14,000 system because the guy's like, yeah, I don't want you to tell. So in a way, I'm acting as an advocate for the landlord, trying to make sure that the rent is being paid, to make sure that we don't tell the attorneys that we have this issue. Why don't we just get this thing fixed right now so we don't have the issue anymore? And this way we're documenting that it's done. So really, there's a lot. So here's the thing about it, Jason. I guess we'll probably wrap this up pretty quick. Is that wherever there's a dark reason that somebody has they shouldn't make a purchase, there's always another reason why somebody should purchase. Now, you as a comfort advisor have to be spot on as to the reason and benefits why we should purchase. Here's the thing about it. The customer's got a reason why we shouldn't do it, and you got a reason why we should do it. But the thing that's not fair is I got a broken furnace that doesn't work very good. That's what always makes it like you're playing with house money, because the furnace sucks right now, or else they wouldn't be calling you at this point. Make sense?
Yep, absolutely. Well, Joe, I got listeners from business owners, dispatchers, installers, service technicians, and comfort advisors. What would you like for them to get out of this episode of HVAC Masters of the Hustle?
Well, I think for this episode, Jason, I think it's just that, have one gear in your gearbox, and that gear is going forward. There's no going backward. Don't look for the door. Relax. Let opportunity come to you, but keep moving forward. You don't got to worry about the end of the job, getting the call or not, but am I moving traction vertically down that field? Watching a football team that throws the passes horizontally and they get a 1 yard gain, they throw the ball 25 yards and they get a 1 yard gain because they threw it sideways. It's not as satisfying as watching the ball go down the field and even getting a 5 yard gain from the tight end. It's just much funner to watch that, right? And so same with you. Don't do things that move you sideways or backward. Do things that constantly move you small increments forward. That's really the simplest way I could probably put that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, Joe. First off, I just want to say thank you for being a guest in the hot seat. I wish you a very happy holiday, Christmas, New Year's, and I hope you start and smash 2021, brother.
Well, let me just say something before I do this. I'm going to say thank you, Jason, because the relationship I have with you has it has helped me and my family. And I want to say, from my family to yours, I probably owe you at least a gift basket for all the opportunities you brought me. And I want to say thank you. I wouldn't be getting that Tesla if it wasn't for you. So I want to say thank you for, even though you put me on the pedestal, I'm not sure why, but I appreciate that. But one thing I can tell you is that you are also doing a great service for the industry and the blue collar business. And I have there's nobody I can would trust more with my clients to help them than you. And we have a lot of I've noticed that I sell a lot of coaching memberships, and you wind up going out there for people. And I think that's a great thing that you can do. I think we're on the same page in so many ways. And I would definitely endorse your services without any hesitation. It seems like it's a whole year was like that, right? I got a coaching, and then you're calling me from the place during your visit. Hey,
or you
let's
see me just walk in.
It's like, exactly. It's like it was like, well, and every time I said, I said, well, at least you're in good hands. I'm happy to see that. It wasn't a smile came on my face. I wasn't. There's no. I didn't disrupt my business because you enhance my business, Jason. So thank you for everything you do. That's what I want to tell you. And I think everybody feels who's listening to this the same way, that you don't get enough credit for what you do. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You gonna cry?
No.